Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. This is a very important video I want to make for you because it's about Bitcoin and actually about crypto in general as well. And it's about a very important subject. In fact, I'm going to react to this video by Carl from the Moon.
Of course, the perfect scenario would have been to sell all of your Bitcoin at 70,000 and now start buying back in. I didn't take profits on Bitcoin.
All right, guys, that's a very interesting video, by the way, because what Carl says in that video is such an important subject that I want to talk with you about as well in regards to Bitcoin. And it's about whether it's ever a good idea to hold Bitcoin forever, to hold the crypto, forever and never sell it. In other words, hodling forever. Is that ever a good idea, or is there a better strategy? All right, guys, join me. All right, guys, welcome back. Now, I haven't made one of these videos for you for a long time. Last time I came in a car and drove around and made a video for you guys was probably over a year ago, probably during the lockdowns. So I came out for a drive today in London and then have a cup of tea and do some reading. And then I came out and I thought to myself, hey, you know what? I have an idea for a video. And it's a very important subject that I want to talk about with you. In fact, it's about whether it's ever a good idea to sell your Bitcoin. And in other words, going to cash, going to, for example, US dollars or some other kind of cash, if the time is right. In other words, is there ever a time when hodling, holding forever, is actually a bad idea? And is it better to perhaps sell some Bitcoin and take some profits and wait for a better opportunity to go long? In other words, buy again. And the reason I'm making this video is because I watched recently a very interesting video by Carl Runefelt, who, as you know, he runs the YouTube channel The Moon, which, again, I like Carl. He's a pretty smart guy. Now, let me just say, I don't usually watch a lot of videos on Bitcoin on YouTube, but this one caught my attention because actually it's a very interesting matter and subject which Carl talks about. And I want to share this with you because it's quite interesting and important. So let's just watch this together and we'll come back.
Bitcoin went all the way up to $70,000. Of course, the perfect scenario would have been to sell all of your Bitcoin at 70,000 and now start buying back in. Of course, I didn't do that. You didn't do that. None of us sold all our Bitcoin at 70K. I didn't even sell any Bitcoin at 70K, to be honest. I took profit in other ways because I took a lot of profit in altcoins, which of course played out very well. But Bitcoin, I didn't take profits on Bitcoin. In the next bull market, maybe I should also take profits on Bitcoin, but it hurts. That's the thing. I know that me and my friends, we all didn't take profits on Bitcoin when we should have, because it just hurts to sell Bitcoin.
All right, guys, welcome back. Now, the reason I played that video for you is not to make fun of Carl. Again, I think he's a very smart, intelligent guy. And I think he made a very important point in that video, don't you think? Because actually, I was quite shocked by what Carl said in that video. I was shocked because, as you probably know, Carl Runefelt of the Moon, he's a hodler on Bitcoin. He's not the kind of person who ever says, well, I want to go sell my Bitcoin and go into cash. So I was quite surprised when he made that video and said, well, I wish I had sold some Bitcoin back last year when the price of Bitcoin was at 70K or 69K. So because Carl is usually a Bitcoin bull, he's very much a hodler, it's very surprising to see him make a video like this and say that he regrets the fact that he did not sell some of his Bitcoin at the time. Now, he may change his mind again at some point in the future, but I think he makes a very important and I think a justifiable point. So let's talk about this. Is it ever a good idea to sell Bitcoin and instead of hodling, actually take some profits or going to cash? And, well, Carl seems to think that actually it is a good idea. Again, he regrets the fact he did not sell it last year. You probably remember in my video last year in 2021, in the summer of that year, I put out video. You probably remember it. I made a big warning to Bitcoin millionaires, in quotation marks, that we're likely reaching a major top and we're likely to see a big drop in the price of Bitcoin. So I had put out warnings already at the time that Bitcoin could see a major drop or a correction.
And I think what's happened is prices move too high too fast, and we need to see a pretty decent correction, a healthy correction in the market. And the sort of thinking that's happening right now, where people are just interested in Bitcoin, not for its value or its potential in technology, but just for making money and just to get rich. This is the herd mentality that destroys people.
All right, guys. So I thought I'd done my job properly in issuing proper warnings at the time. But here's the biggest question in this video. Is it ever a good idea to sell your Bitcoin or your crypto? You know, it could be Ethereum too. Actually, it could be any market. But is it ever a good idea to take some profits and go into cash? Well, here's the first thing I would say. The first thing I would say is it depends on your personality. Okay, so everybody is different. What may be true for me is going to be different for you because everyone has a different tolerance for risk. Some people are big risk takers and some people are much more cautious. I would say I'm probably more risk averse. I'm much more cautious. Don't get me wrong here. I do take risks. I like taking risks, but I'm also more cautious as well. So I would say on the scale of how much of a risk taker I am, I'm not a huge risk taker. So I'm more leaning on the cautious side. Now you may be different. Maybe you're more of a risk taker than being risk averse. And here's what I would say. What I would say is the first thing you should ask is, what is your personality? Okay? Because you might be surprised, because as you saw with that video from Carl Runefelt, now he himself was the kind of person that would never say, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin and put it into cash. Because he, as you probably heard in that video, the idea just didn't seem right. You know, imagine telling an Italian, don't eat pizza or pasta, go eat fish and chips. I mean, if you were to say it to an Italian, they may think you're crazy or just you don't know what you're talking about. So that's the point, guys. You have to ask yourself, first of all, what is your personality? Are you the kind of person who can withstand, who can tolerate a 70 to 80% drop in the value of your assets, whatever you bought, okay? If you say yes, I'm okay with seeing a major drop, 70%, 80% drop in the value of whatever I bought, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or some other crypto or market, then fine, stick with it. You know, if you're truly committed to hodling, then stay with it. That's why I think it's a very subjective and very personal issue. Okay, so, you know, if your decision is to hold forever, then fine, stick with it. But as long as you appreciate the risks too, as Carl was saying in that video, there are major risks with that too. And, you know, the risk is that you may miss an opportunity. So for example, if you've had a major run in the price of your asset, the price of your crypto, for example, Bitcoin, as we saw from $4,000 in 2020 to $69,000 in 2021 in just a matter of a year, you know, if you see a massive rise in the price of your crypto and then you watch it drop by 80% or 75%, like it has done so over the last several months, then yeah, it's going to be painful. And you need to ask yourself this question now, is that a good idea for you? Again, we're all different. So whatever is good for me is not going to be good for you. So for me, as a cautious person, as a more risk-averse person, I wouldn't like to hold something and watch it drop at 80%. To me, that's going to cause me a lot of mental pain. Okay? So I like the idea. Personally, I like the idea of taking some profits and going into cash. But that could be different for you. So everybody is different. This is a very subjective issue. But all I want to do in this video is, if you haven't seriously given this some thought, then I think you should really consider it. Because the next time we see Bitcoin see a major bull market rally, and we shall have to wait and see when that happens. But the bottom line is, you ought to be prepared now. You need to make a decision now as to what you're going to do in that situation. Now, I'm going to give you some pointers. I'm going to give you a couple of strategies which you can employ. And these are very simple methods. For example, you might say to me, well, Alessio, nobody can possibly predict the top. It's very easy to look back in hindsight and say, okay, 69,000 or 70,000 was a top for Bitcoin, but how can you possibly know it in advance? It's always in hindsight. You can look back and say, well, that was a major top for Bitcoin. But you couldn't have possibly known that. It's impossible to know what a top is for a market until it actually happens. And that's a very good point. But maybe some strategies here could be useful. For example, Paul Tudor Jones, again, a fantastic trader. You probably heard of him. He was in the book Market Wizards by Jack Schwager. Paul Tudor Jones, again, one of the best traders in the world. He once said that whenever he sees a 5-to-1 reward to risk, so if he risks $1 and he makes $5 in those 5-to-1 reward to risk, he prefers to take a profit or partial profit. For him, that's a good trade. So in other words, according to Paul Tudor Jones' methodology, if there's a 5-to-1 reward to risk, so let's say the price of an asset like Bitcoin goes up by 500%, again, 5-to-1, then it may be a good idea to consider taking some profits. Again, I'm not saying take all profits, because as we've seen with Bitcoin, price does rally for much higher sometimes. But it's something to consider that if price goes up by 5-to-1, by 500%, or let's say 10-to-1, by 1,000%, then maybe it's a good idea to take some profits, or at least consider it. Okay, and it doesn't have to be a half profit. It could be a 1/3 profit or a quarter profit. Okay, so in other words, turn some of those Bitcoin from Bitcoin into cash. Now, again, some of you are probably thinking that's a crazy idea. Why would anyone want to substitute Bitcoin, beautiful crypto like that, for something like the US dollar or some other currency? Again, that's a personal choice for you. Now, you don't have to go into cash. You could go into something else, whatever you think is good for you. Maybe gold, whatever you like. But the bottom line is, if the price of Bitcoin or any crypto goes up by, 500 to 1,000%, then I actually think it is a good idea to take some partial profits. Or if you don't want to take profits, put a trailing stop in. So a trailing stop loss. By the way, it doesn't have to be a physical stop loss. It could also be a mental stop. So you could say, I'm going to put a mental stop at this price level, below the price. If Bitcoin were to drop below it, then I'm going to sell some, maybe 50%, maybe a third, maybe a quarter. Okay. So I really think, thinking about this now, being prepared for that when the time comes is a very useful idea. Okay. And the other thing I want to say is this, another methodology, another strategy you can employ is when your friends and family members are asking you, hey, how do I buy Bitcoin? That is also a good idea to consider selling some of your Bitcoin. As you saw back last year when the price of Bitcoin went to 60 to 69,000, what were your friends saying to you at the time? I know what my friends, people I'd never heard of, suddenly calling me or texting me saying, hey, Alessio, how do I buy Bitcoin? And some of these people were never interested in Bitcoin or crypto in their life. And suddenly they're asking, hey, how do I buy Bitcoin? Come on, guys, as you know by now, that's alarm bells ringing. When those kind of people, again, when the dumb money are asking, how do I buy Bitcoin? That's a time to get out, or at least sell some. In other words, going to cash or something else. So it's a huge contrary signal when the average person out there, the average Joe, is asking you or thinking about buying Bitcoin or buying some crypto. That's the time to consider seriously, potentially going into some cash or exiting, taking some profits. Again, this is a personal choice for you. I can't tell you what you're going to do. If you're someone who's comfortable with hodling, holding forever, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you accept the risks too. The risk of potentially missing out on an opportunity to take some profits, or indeed the risk of going into a huge loss as well. As we saw, some people went into loss this year when the price dropped below 20K. So I hope this video will be of some help to you. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Cheers, guys. Bye for now.